Hello, everybody. This is Cheryl Abram and Person-Centered Cyber. So I'm making this video to help out with individuals looking to pass their CompTIA, ISC squared, ISACA, whatever kind of exams you're studying for, and that you intend to pass. Well, I really feel like I've discovered something really beneficial to help you. Okay, and so let's just get into it, and I hope you enjoy this presentation. Okay. All right. So this is how to pass CISSP Plus, the no-fail way. You are going to think like an exam writer. So in cybersecurity, we say a lot how you think like a hacker. And you're not really doing that. Like what you're really doing is, basically doing what they do. Okay. Because there's a lot that goes into thinking that you're not doing when you're trying to think like a hacker. But that's neither here nor there. But what we're going to do is we're going to follow the same procedures and the types of things that exam writers do so we can pass this exam. Now, you still have to study, all right? You're still going to need to study and do those things that you typically do. But a lot of us, we fail by just a hair, like 2, 3, 4 questions. What I'm going to show you here today is going to get you beyond that. You're going to answer those 2, 3, or 4 questions, okay, that kept you from passing the first time, all right? So let me tell you what I did. I researched SME writing practices. Now, I have been to classes on how to write certification exam questions, okay? When I was in the federal government, I went to many, many ANSI meetings, ANSI. I don't know if you all know who that is, but these individuals know who that is, okay? Many of those meetings and many workshops on how to write exam questions. But in addition to that, I did my own research about ISC squared, ISACA, and CompTIA to see how they did it. And it's really pretty much the same across the board. Now, as an exam writer with these different individuals, you will get certain things. I believe CompTIA is the only one who says they pay you to do it, even though you can get an honorarium from ISACA. But for all of them, you can earn CPE credits, and it's just a really great thing to do, if you want to write exam questions. But we're going to go through that process tonight, okay? So that you can see how these questions are written and what you need to do with them, all right? But first, let me tell you why I feel like, this is something I can talk about, is because 6 months after I turned in my resignation after 16 years in HR, I got my first cybersecurity job. I obtained my CISA, or CISA, however you say that, my Security Plus certification 3 months after changing careers, okay? I passed my ISC squared for my CAP exam, and I'm an associate because I don't have the requisite experience to actually get the certification. So you know how ISC squared does that thing. So now I'm doing some work in risk management so I can get that experience. But I passed the exam, okay? Now, what are we going to do? We're going to get inside the head of test writers, understand how they write exam questions. We're going to understand why they write the questions that way, okay? And then we're going to select the answer that matches their way of thinking. Forget about selecting the right answer, okay? Cancel that out of your head, forget about it. We are going to select, because they've taken care of that. CompTIA has selected the best people, ISC squared, ISACA. These people know what they're talking about, okay? Plus they have references to back up the answers. It's a very rigorous process. They've taken care of whether the answer is right or not. So what we need to do is select the answer that matches their way of thinking. And the right answer will take care of itself. You understand? That's what we're going to do here. Now, for all of them, this is generally what happens. And this is not just, cybersecurity certification bodies. This is, all kinds of people, all right? Or all kinds of professions. you're going to do some kind of job analysis first. Okay, what happens on the job? Develop objectives, get your concept up, go ahead and write your question. What's the key? Okay, or what's the correct answer? What are plausible distractors? And we're going to go through each of these in more detail. Some of them come to a consensus, and then they do various ways that they test, analyze, and then launch the exam. Okay. Okay, writing the questions. And now, again, let's get into the mindset of an exam writer. So pretend like you're an exam writer, and we're going through this. You're about to attend a workshop to write some questions for the CISSP. Okay. So we're going to talk about the question stem first. So exam question items contain 3 parts: a stem, okay, which is the question itself; options, which are the A, B, C, D, E, however many options you have to choose from; and context sometimes, you know, when it's applicable, when it's like scenario questions and stuff. You'll see a little bit of context in there, okay? Well, let's talk about the stem. Now, the stem is the question. It's the question to be answered or the statement to be completed, all right? It may include context. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, depends on what kind of question it is. The words you write in the question or in the stem will unlikely be present in the answer, okay? That's called clang associations. As an exam writer, you want to avoid that, okay? Don't let the words in the question appear in the answer, okay? Because that'll make it too easy, okay, for candidates to know what the answer is, okay? Now, the stem should be written clearly, okay? So when the test taker reads that question, they can't be wondering, okay, what's the question here? You know, no ambiguity at all. And if you're going to use acronyms, you must spell them out, all right? For example, let's use an everyday example. In the story Cinderella, the stepmother made Cinderella sleep by the fireplace while the stepmother and her 2 daughters slept in their own bedrooms. Why did Cinderella's stepmother make her sleep by the fireplace? That is the stem, okay? And there's a little context in there above that question. But the clear, no ambiguity question is, why did Cinderella's stepmother make her sleep by the fireplace? Period. That's it. Okay. Okay, now we're going to get to the key. Okay. Or the answer. Now the key should stand alone. All right. That's what the key is. It should stand alone. In some cases, it will be the only correct answer. In some, it'll be the best of all the other alternatives, okay? Or it'll be several bests, you know, when you have the answer, you know, pick 2 answers, pick 3 answers, that kind of thing, okay? And it should be suited to the topic. In general, okay, the general topic, not to a particular, you know, job or you know, a certain company that you work for, because these questions are universal. You have all kinds of people taking this exam, not just in the United States, okay? So it has to be general. If it's a security question, anybody should be able to answer it, okay? And answer it the same way. So the best way, oh, hold on, let me get to that next. Okay, here we go. In the story Cinderella, the stepmother made Cinderella sleep by the fireplace while the stepmother and her 2 daughters slept in their own bedrooms. Why did Cinderella's stepmother make her sleep by the fireplace? The stepmother is jealous of Cinderella's beauty and kindness. Okay, that's the key. That's the answer. Okay. Now, if you know the story of Cinderella, you're going to know that, you know, that even without choices, okay, you're going to have an idea of why the stepmother did this. All right. But if you've never read that story, there's other things you're going to have to rely on to help you get to this choice. And you're going to get that help from distractors. Now, distractors for exam writers are the most difficult to write, okay? They're not easy. They're meant to distract inexperienced candidates from the correct answer, okay? Because if you're experienced, this won't work for you, okay? You know what the correct answer is if you've done the work, okay? Now, distractors should be realistic and plausible, but clearly wrong. Clearly not the right answer compared to the key, compared to the correct answer. And they are typically the same length, tense, and complexity as the correct answer, all right? Now, here are the distractors for why did Cinderella's stepmother make her sleep by the fireplace? The stepmother wants Cinderella to be warm and comfortable. Okay, is that realistic and plausible? If I've never read this story, probably not. I mean, you know, if probably not. It could be, but I don't know. The stepmother's house has only 3 bedrooms. Well, would you put her in front of the fireplace? I mean, is there a couch in the house or something? I mean, I don't know. I guess, you know, she could sleep by if it's a small house or something, but I don't know. So I'm fuzzy on that one. And the stepmother is remodeling Cinderella's room, you know, which is another distractor. I've never read the story. I have no idea what it's about. You know, again, if the house is small or something, I guess. So and the stepmother is jealous of Cinderella. Well, this is the only answer that's like different than the other ones. Okay. And so it sounds right to me. I mean, we know that it's correct, but for somebody who hasn't read this story, you know, they may have some trouble, okay, finding out, okay, what's right here. And they're going to have to rely on plausibility and, you know, what's realistic, okay, of all of these things, okay? Now, the best way to develop distractors is to think of common mistakes made by inexperienced professionals or someone without the knowledge of the topic area, okay? What will people fall for if they have no knowledge of the story Cinderella? Okay, if they've never read the story before, what will they fall for? Okay, let's put those in there. Because the person who's read it will know what that answer is. Okay, and we're trying to separate the skilled from the unskilled. You understand? Okay. So to help with this, to help see how this feels, I want you to write your own question and options. Okay, think of any kind of story that you know, something that you're good at, cooking, whatever it is. Write a question, okay, and then write a key, the correct answer, and some distractors, and then give it to somebody and let them figure out what's, you know, what the correct answer is, okay? It's not easy, I'm telling you, and because distractors are hard to do, that's where test takers can take advantage of getting, you know, those 2-3 questions, of the last 2-3 that they need to pass. That's where they're going to get that, okay, from those distractors, from giving attention to those distractors, okay? Now let's look at the question types here. You're going to write, the exam writer is going to write direct questions, one type of question, okay? That's the question that ends in a question mark, okay? And the options begin a new sentence or phrase. For example, now for what I'm doing here, don't worry about what the right answer is. That is not what we're looking for here, okay? We're trying to find out how exam individuals who write exam questions, how they're thinking, what they have to do to have this question pass, so that CompTIA and ISC Square and ISACA say, okay, we'll put this on the exam, all right? That's what we're doing here. Forget about the right answer right now, all right? So which of the following should be the primary objective of a risk management program? Direct questions will give direct answers. If you can start a sentence with A, B, C, and D, that's a direct question, okay? So reduce residual should be the primary objective of a risk management program. Reduce residual risk should be that sounds weird right off the bat, Okay, so I'm probably going to, eliminating business risk should be the, implementing effective controls should be, minimizing inherent. So A just sounds funny, okay? And because I know that exam writers really need to give attention to be sure that the grammar is consistent, okay? From the question to the choices, A is moving funny, all right? A is moving funny to me. That's when I'm probably going to eliminate that one, okay? Because that's not giving me a direct answer, all right? And test takers, really seasoned test takers, will know this answer is likely incorrect, okay? Incomplete statement, okay? This is another type of question, another type of STEM that exam writers will write. It ends with a colon, okay? And the options complete the sentence. So for example, the primary objective of a risk management program should be to reduce residual risk, eliminating business risk, implement effective controls, minimizing inherent risk. Can you hear what's going on here? If the option does not produce a grammatically correct completion for the sentence, test takers will know this answer is likely incorrect, all right? So when they write the distractors, sometimes you're going to see this, okay? You will see that, and that if a seasoned test taker will take note of that, okay? And they'll say, okay, before they even get to the content, right? They'll be like, okay, first of all, I know that test takers are required to be sure that the tense and all of that stuff is dress right dress, okay? It needs to be there because they won't accept the question if it isn't, all right? So if this kind of thing is done, it's probably deliberate. All right, so that's a clue right off the bat. And some of the questions that I answered on my CISSP, which I failed the first time, okay? I failed my CISSP the first time, but I was excited because I had just come from an HR background, and I didn't expect to do as well as I did, but I did, okay? And as time has gone on, and I've been assisting other individuals with their exams, it's come to me, well, you know what, like, how do these people write these questions? Okay, that's what we need to look at. All right. So, okay, eliminating business risk is weird. Okay, as far as something grammatically correct completing the statement. All right, and so was the other one. Scenarios, same thing. Okay, they're just a little longer. There's a little more context. Okay, but you're really going to be looking for the same kind of stuff. All right. So here, a cybersecurity analyst receives a phone call from an unknown person with the number blocked on the caller ID. After starting a conversation, the caller begins to request sensitive information. Which of the following techniques is being applied? Now listen, you have to answer the question. There's a specific thing that this STEM is asking you for. Before you do anything, you have to know what that is. So let me tell you, so in this one here, it's asking you, it's saying after starting a conversation, the caller begins to request sensitive information. There's a sequence of stuff happening here, okay? Which of the following techniques is being applied? All right. I receive a phone call, they start a conversation, and now the caller begins to request sensitive information, all right? What does that fall under, that whole sequence? Now, one of the things you need to look for in the key, all right? Because sometimes it'll be like, well, that's right, and that's right, and that's right, but it's only asking me for one thing, okay? You want to find the broadest, and which one of the keys will encompass the other ones, all right? If you get a case where, well, this is right, and that is right, or could be right, okay? There's one of those, is one of those like an umbrella, okay, that the other ones will come under. Now for this one, it is social engineering, okay? Social engineering can be an umbrella that some of the other ones will fall under, All right. Now here we go. Experience/performance-based questions. CompTIA is good for these. All right. These test understanding and/or application of concepts. And it does require some level of experiential knowledge. It's not just about knowing the definition of something, okay? So if you look at this first example, a biometric system is an access control system which all you need to know is a definition of a biometric system for this, okay? You need to remember that. Just remember that because they're gonna ask that question, all right? You really don't have to have any experience with biometric systems, okay? As long as you can remember the answer or what the definition is. Now, number two, this leans more toward understanding. What is the greatest advantage of using a biometric access control system? That requires more context, okay? You have to have had more context to be able to go from just remembering the answer to understanding it enough to, to get to this, the key here, all right? And I'm going to demonstrate this for you. So let's use a simple example, all right? Here, for the remembering, a budget is a. If you know the definition of a budget, you're good. You're fine. You don't have to have ever used a budget, read about a budget, talked about a budget, done a budget, whatever. If you know the definition, a budget is a, you're good. Now, what's the greatest advantage of budgeting? You need more context for that, okay? You need more context for that because like all of these, couldn't any one of these be okay, right? Couldn't any one of these be okay, right? So again, we're getting back to the broad, like there's a whole bunch of things you're gonna need to, not a whole bunch, like 5 things you're gonna need to look at for each of these questions, and we're gonna get to that. But I just wanna show you the difference between what you need to remember and then what you need to understand. Okay, and this is Bloom's taxonomy, which is used a lot when it comes to learning and development and all that. So let's go through a really quick example to just put a bow tie on this, remembering versus understanding. I need you to remember this number, 125. That's it. You're going to have an exam in 5 days where you're going to have to sit down, and the question is going to be, what number was on slide 18 in Cheryl's presentation? 125. That's it. That's all you gotta remember. You're good. You got it. You passed. Okay. That's remembering. And after you take the exam, you can forget it. You don't need that information anymore. That's all you needed it for, was to pass that exam. Now you can forget it. Okay. And when you have to remember stuff like that, that takes a lot of energy because it has to remain top of mind, right? It's almost like when you go to the grocery store and your mom, your spouse, your friend, like whatever, they say, hey, get me some cheese, butter, oil, and oranges. Okay. And you don't write it down. So you're like, okay, you leave out the house with your keys, cheese, butter, orange, cheese, butter. Oh Lord, see, I already forgot. You see, I mean, you have to, it has to stay top of mind. You understand what I'm saying? And that takes a lot of energy. The higher up you go in Bloom's taxonomy, from remembering to creating, the easier it is. You don't have to remember anymore, okay? If you don't have to remember anymore, then it's smooth sailing. If I ask you your name, that's not something you have to remember. That's something you know and use all the time, right? All the time, okay? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Now, let's look at the next one. This is understanding. Here's that 125. It's the back of a credit card. It's that number, when I ask you for that 3-digit number when you're paying your bills online, that's what that 125. Now I've just given you more context. Now with understanding, what can you do? Okay, what can you do? You can move on to applying. Let me give you a little more context. Now that you understand, it's the 3-digit number on the back of a credit card, all right? Now, it's your credit card. I just gave you a little more context. Now you can apply, you can absolutely 100% apply that 125 and use it to do something, okay? It's your credit card. You can go check, check your credit card account, whatever you want to do. What if I said it's a lost credit card, okay? Or it's a stolen credit card. Those things, okay, you can still apply. You're going to apply in a different way, but you can do something now with this number, okay? And with the context that's surrounding it. If you saw Jason Bourne, like the first Jason Bourne movie, right? He didn't know who he was after he came out of the water. All he had was, a bunch of stuff with numbers on it and all that. And throughout the movie, he got more context and was able to use those things, okay? So that's what we're talking about here when it comes to these questions that exam writers write. They write it so that you either have to remember something, you have to understand it, or you're going to have to apply it or analyze and all that other stuff. Okay, but we're not going to go that far out. Now, the question focus, okay? Candidates need to be able to zoom into exactly what the question is asking so they can answer it. Okay, exam writer, they have very little time for a lot of these things. The candidates don't have time to be wondering. Wondering, what are you talking about? Okay, focus this question on the topic, on the subject, on the objective, okay? Don't make it hard for them to understand what you are asking for, okay? Here's a complex versus a simple question. Again, forget about any answers, okay? Don't worry about all that right now. Number one, while evaluating information security controls, which of the following would best help to reduce the risk of unauthorized modifications and disclosure and to reduce costs of inefficient protection of information resources? It's like, what do you want me to do? I mean, this is very complex. It's a complex STEM. They want to know risks related to information disclosure. They want to know disclosure and cost reduction. Okay, what do you want me to answer, right? You need to focus on only one of these concepts when you're writing the question so that there is no ambiguity about what you're asking. So number two is the simple and better, more effective STEM. While evaluating information security controls, which of the following would best help to reduce the risk of inefficient protection of information resources? Okay, very simple, very clear. I know what the candidate will know what you're asking for, all that, all right? Now, this is what you're going to be looking for in any question that you come across, especially those where you're not sure, because there's going to be questions where you just know the answer right off the bat, okay? Some, I mean, you just, it's like Cinderella, you never read it, okay? So now what do I do, right? This is what you're going to look for. First, what type of question will the candidate answer? You, the candidate, we're at you now, okay? So remember, exam writers are writing to separate the qualified from the unqualified, okay? So they have to be sure to adhere as much as possible to the checks that I'm going over today, okay? They have to be able to do that because again, we're trying to separate the wheat from the chaff, okay? The inexperience from the experience. Because we're telling people, CompTIA, ISC squared, ISACA, those organizations are saying, hey, if somebody passes this exam, that means they are qualified for what you want them to do, all right? So first, what type of question did they write? Or what type of question will the candidate answer? Will it be a direct, incomplete, scenario, experience, or performance-based, okay? Is the STEM focused on one concept? There's no ambiguity about the question being asked. So candidate, when you read that question, it should be very direct. There should be no ambiguity about what's being asked, okay? Is the key clearly the correct answer? Meaning, is it broad enough to be distinguished from distractors and or is it something that somebody who has no idea about what this concept is won't know, okay? It's very unlikely that an inexperienced person will pick the correct answer. Okay, that's what they're trying to do, because they're separating the skilled from the unskilled. Okay, are distractors plausible? It's got to look right to those who do not listen. It has to look like the right answer for people who do not possess the knowledge or skill recommended for that exam. Your distractors have to be that good, okay? That if I have no idea what a port is at all, these distractors will look and sound right to me, and I'm gonna choose it, okay? And I'm gonna keep choosing like that, and then I'm gonna fail the exam, right? Because that's evidence that I don't have the correct, knowledge or skill as far as the exam writers are concerned, okay? So, are distractors the same length, tense, and complexity as the answer or the key, okay? Because if it's not, seasoned test takers, people who know how to take exams, will look for anomalies first, such as the longest or shorter options. And they'll look at that as clues, okay, to whether or not this answer, this is the correct one. This is the correct answer, all right? So length, tense, and complexity. So, and again, exam writers have to adhere to these as much as possible in order to separate the qualified from the unqualified, okay? So as the exam taker, all right, when you, for all the questions, and then even when you study, go through this checklist and ask this question, okay? And if something isn't right, you can use that to help you get to the what the exam writer was thinking, okay? And normally, let me tell you this, normally they write the correct answer first, all right? Correct answer first, and then they write the distractors, okay? And when you do it, I'm telling you, practice doing that so you see exactly what they have to go through and how difficult it is, okay? It'll help you. Now let's do some CISSP practice questions. And I'm saying CISSP because, again, I want you to select the answer that matches the exam writer's way of thinking, okay? Don't select the right answer. The right answer will take care of itself, all right? You select what the exam writer was thinking, when they wrote this, right? You select that first key, that first correct answer, that they wrote. So leave the correctness to them. You'll see what I'm saying here. All right. In data processing systems, the value analysis should be performed in terms of which 3 properties? Okay, now what kind of question is this? It's a direct question, right? Remember, direct questions have direct answers. Is the STEM focused on one concept or topic? So what's the STEM? The value analysis should be performed in terms of which 3 properties? That's very clear, all right? Now what we need to see is if the key is clearly the correct answer, okay? Meaning that it's broad enough to be distinguished from the distractors, or somebody with no experience won't likely know what it is. All right, and then so let's go through that, okay? So A, profit, loss, and ROI. That could be right. However, it applies only to business management, okay? All right, and this is talking about data processing systems overall, like this is a big system, okay? What about B, intentional, accidental, natural? I don't even like the way that sounds, okay? The way that sounds bothers me. But this applies to a threat analysis, intentional, accidental, natural disaster, okay? We're talking about value analysis, okay? 3, assets, personnel, services provided. That could be right as well. It could be the key, but this is considered more in business, right? So the A, B, and C are very focused, okay? Now, what about D? Yeah, D is the answer here: availability, integrity, and confidentiality. All right, which will cover that aspect in all of these things in A, B, and C. Okay. All right. Now, are the distractors plausible? Are A, B, and C plausible? Yes. Right. Which means they look right to a person who really doesn't know anything about data processing system, value analysis, and all that. Okay. They may pick one of these three because, I mean, you know, okay, it sounds like it's right, right? So if you did that, then that's good, right? Are distractors the same length, tense, and complexity as the key, as D? Now, A is much shorter, okay, but maybe that's just because they didn't write out ROI. Okay, that could be the thing right there, right? But the correct, the way the exam writer wrote this helps us see that they wrote availability, integrity, confidentiality first, and then said, okay, what could go under here? Okay, that would be plausible, realistic, and that somebody who has no experience could actually choose. All right, that was the thought process. Which of the following is a key element during the initial security planning process? Again, what type of question is this? It's a direct question. Is the STEM focused on one concept? Which of the following is a key element during the initial security planning process? Yes, I mean, it's very, very clear. Is the key clearly the correct answer? We're gonna go over that. Meaning, is it broad enough to be distinguished from the distractors or somebody who, you know, who doesn't know anything about this? Are distractors plausible? And are distractors the same length, tense, and complexity as the key? All right, so let's look at this. Which of the following is a key element during the initial security planning process? Establish system review timeframes. As far as, is a distractor the same intense length? I mean, that tense is crazy. It's all over the place. Okay, all over the place. So I would be suspicious of that from the jump. Okay. Implement a security awareness program. That doesn't make sense either. Okay. What about defining reporting relationships and institute a change management program? Now, for me, C just sounds right. Okay. C sounds right. And again, we're talking about getting those last 3, 4, 5 questions that escaped you, that you just weren't sure about. Okay. Using these 5 question checks. All right. So the answer here is C. Defining reporting relationships is a key element during the initial security planning process. Remember, if it ends in a question mark, the key should be able to be used in a sentence, okay, in the next sentence, right? So defining reporting relationships is a key element during the initial. Establish system review time. I mean, that doesn't make sense. Implement a security awareness program is a key element. It could, it sounds like it may be right. Institute a change management program, but defining reporting relationship to me just sounds better, okay? So when I look at these 5 checks, the one that talks about whether or not are the distractors the same length, tense, and complexity, C just stands out, okay? Now for you, one of the other checks may do it for you, okay? So which is why you need to go through all of them. Which of the following procedures could best be utilized to validate the continued need for privileged user access to system resources? Same thing, go through the 5 checks. Type of question, is the STEM focused? Is the key clearly, and think about the key as the first one they wrote, the first one the exam person wrote, and then they said, okay, what else can I put in here? that'll distract from this key, from this answer. Okay, think like that. The correct, what they thought, the one they wrote first was periodic review and recertification. Okay, and one of the things that you can see here in the STEM, it's asking for procedures with an S. Remember I said you have to know what it's asking for. Be sure you know what the exam writer is asking for. They're asking for procedures with an S, meaning you need to see more than one of something in these options, okay? Of all of these, this is the only one that has more than one. You have periodic review and recertification. The rest of this is just saying one thing, okay? All right. What step can a company take to reduce the risk of its employees violating software copyright laws? Now, for this one, for those of you who are taking management exams like the CISSP or the CASSP or any other management thing, the saying is the management answer is usually the right one. The one that management can do or does is usually the right one. All right. What step can a company take to reduce the risk of its employees violating software copyright laws? If we just look at that, what management, what you associate with administrative controls, okay? Administrative controls, C just stands right out. Establishing a company policy. A company policy is an administrative control, okay? Something that comes from the CISO, the CIO, something that comes from management, okay? But go through the other checks as well, okay? Because that may, those will help to point to the first response that the exam writer wrote, okay? Again, this is your question check. What type of question is it? Is the STEM focused on one concept and topic? Okay, is the key clearly the correct answer? Are distractors plausible, and are distractors the same length, tense, and complexity? Now, if you're able to see this through the eyes of the exam writer, you're golden. Like seriously, you're absolutely golden. Count on the fact that distractors are very difficult to write, okay? And the correct answer is normally the first one the exam writer writes. And then they think, okay, how can I distract from this, okay? For individuals who don't have the skill or the knowledge or the experience, okay? What would they pick, okay? Versus the person who has done this work or who has studied or who understands this, who has applied this concept in some kind of way, okay? Be sure to think of it that way, all right? The correct answer will take care of itself when you answer according to the way the exam writer was thinking, okay? And that's me. So subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have not, it's called Person-Centered Cyber, so you can get more videos like this. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter under Epiphany LLC. And I thank you all so much. Thank you so much for doing this. This was really, I hope it was useful. I really do. I hope it was useful, and good luck. Good luck on your next exam. I'll see y'all later.